The other day I was testing a recipe and I needed some buffalo chicken dip, and I really quickly made one in my pressure cooker and it was so good I just had to share the recipe with you. Welcome to The Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. And today's recipe is for a buffalo chicken dip. And believe it or not, I didn't start out really making a recipe for buffalo chicken dip. I needed it as a component in another recipe I'm working on. And I didn't even know the first thing about making a buffalo chicken dip, but I just threw some things in the pressure cooker and it came out so amazing. So I wanted to definitely get this one written up as a formal recipe for you. It only uses a few ingredients and it is so easy and you can change it up any which way you like. So let's get right into it. I'm using the Ninja Foodi pressure cooker, but you can use any electric pressure cooker that you like. This is the 6.5 quart, but any size will work. Even a smaller, like 5 quart, will work perfectly fine for this recipe. All right, so first thing up is you can't have chicken buffalo dip without chicken. I use chicken breast in this recipe and I do prefer that over thighs, which I don't usually say. I usually like the texture of thighs, especially when it's shredded. But for this recipe, I really think you need to use the chicken breast. But again, you can change this up. So if you want to use chicken thighs, the timing will be the same, okay? You can use frozen like I have here, or you can use thawed. The only difference is the pressure cook timing. You reduce it by 5 minutes if you're using thawed chicken breast, okay? So no big deal there. And I'm using these straight out of the bag. When I got them from the store, I individually seal them up, and I'm gonna throw them right in the pressure cooker, just like they are. Now these are not even trimmed. You can trim them, obviously, before you package them, but you can't trim them when they're frozen. It doesn't make any difference in this recipe. All right, so what else are we gonna put in the pot before we go under pressure? Well, if you've pressure cooked anything before, you know that you need thin liquid. And I'm gonna talk about the amount of water that I'm using in this recipe in just a minute, but I wanted to go over the other ingredients because they are also considered liquid ingredients. What I have here is 6 tablespoons of salted butter, and that is gonna go in. We're gonna pressure cook with that. And then I have 6 tablespoons of hot sauce. You can use your favorite hot sauce. I happen to love Cholula. I just think it's just the best flavor. But if you are a Frank's hot sauce person, use that instead. Equal amounts of butter and hot sauce. And then I like a sweet heat. So I also add in 3 tablespoons of honey, okay? And I do that at the very end. I just sort of dump it right on top of the chicken breast. Now let's talk about that liquid. I'm using a half of a cup of plain water. Could you use chicken stock? Absolutely, no problems there. But I'm just using water because it really doesn't need the addition of the chicken stock. And if you don't have a container of chicken stock open, I don't want you to open one for a half of a cup. So we're gonna use water instead. Pour that right into the pressure cooker. Now, like I said earlier, it doesn't matter if you use 8 ounces of chicken breast or 2 pounds of chicken breast or 3 pounds of chicken breast. You're still only gonna use a half of a cup of water. The reason being is that the chicken breast itself is going to release juices. It's going to be quite a bit of liquid in there when we're done. And we don't want a runny, soupy dip, okay? So half of a cup, that is all you need, whether you're using 5 quart, 6 quart, 7 quart, 8 quart pressure cooker. Half of a cup of liquid, okay? And again, remember, this is gonna melt, this is gonna be liquid. Juices are gonna come out of the chicken, that's liquid. This is still liquid, even though it's a little bit thicker, okay? All right, now let's get that butter in, and we'll put that right on top, just like that. Doesn't matter if it falls down into the liquid, makes no difference. Now I do put in a little bit of salt. I have a half of a teaspoon of fine grind sea salt, or you could use kosher salt. If you're gonna use chicken stock and it's seasoned, skip the salt, okay? You can add some more at the end if you need to. All right, 6 tablespoons of the hot sauce going right on top. And I try to put everything on top of the chicken so that the thinnest liquid is always at the bottom for pressure cooking. And then we're gonna put that honey right on top, 3 tablespoons of the honey. Perfect. And now we go under pressure. We're gonna go under pressure for 25 minutes. And I know that seems like a long time. And of course our chicken breast is frozen, But even if it's thawed, you're gonna go under pressure for 20 minutes because we are taking this chicken breast way past 165. We want it in the 200 degrees Fahrenheit mark so it just shreds apart into our dip, okay? Make sure the valve in the back is sealed. Turn the Ninja Foodi or whatever pressure cooker you're using on. Select pressure, high is what you want, and then take it up to 25 minutes if your chicken breast is frozen, 20 minutes if it's thawed. Hit start. Now, it's gonna take a little bit of time, not too much, but a little bit of time to come up to pressure. And then once it comes up to pressure and cooks for the 25 minutes, let it do a full natural release, okay? And that's gonna take another 15 minutes. So you can easily walk away from this for an hour or so and go do something else, okay? So the pot took about 8 minutes to come to pressure. We pressure cooked on high for 25 minutes, and around the 20-minute mark, the pin in the back dropped. But don't worry if you're busy doing something like I was. It'll just switch over to keep warm, and it can stay there for another 30 minutes or even longer. It'll be perfectly fine. But we are now ready to move on with making our buffalo chicken dip. So you can see there's quite a bit of liquid in the bottom there. And now we're gonna shred up the chicken. And just go in with your tongs and just sort of shred it up. It's gonna be super easy and it's super tender. It's not gonna be rubbery. It's gonna be delicious. Once you have the chicken all shredded up, we're gonna add in some cream cheese and then put the lid on and just let it sit so the cream cheese starts to melt. Now that will happen quicker if your cream cheese is at room temperature, but even if it's cold out of the fridge, it's still gonna happen. It's plenty hot in the pot. The amount of cream cheese that you use is completely up to you, but my rule of thumb is to use 4 ounces of cream cheese per 8 ounces of chicken that goes into the recipe. So I have here 12 ounces of cream cheese, which is 1.5 blocks. Now, if that turns out not to be enough for you, you can always add more. There's no problems there. Now, I like to break it up just to speed up the process, but that's not even really necessary. All right, get it off the tongs there. Put the lid back on, or you could even just close your crisping lid. That's fine if you have a model like I do. So you can close the crisping lid or put your pressure lid on. Either way is fine. If you close the crisping lid, the keep warm is not gonna go on. You're gonna not have that advantage. So I'll just put the lid on and let it sit for about 5 minutes, just really soften that cream cheese. Then we'll mix everything up. We'll give it a taste and we can make some adjustments depending on how you like your buffalo chicken dip to be. You might like it spicier. You might like it cream cheesier. You might want to add in cheddar cheese. There's all kinds of things. We're going to go over that in just a bit. Okay, so I broke up the rest of the chicken, started to stir it. All of the cream cheese is not completely melted. It still looks pretty soupy. I don't want you to worry about that. It really does thicken up nicely, and you can always add some more cream cheese or some cheddar cheese to it. What I'm gonna do right now is give it a little bit of taste so I can see if I've got the balance of the hot sauce and the honey and things like that correct, okay? So I'm just gonna take a little bit out, mostly the chicken here, just to get an idea. Then you can add more hot sauce. You can add red pepper flakes. You can add, like I said, more cream cheese, which I may end up doing, a little bit of shredded cheddar. Anything you like. It's your buffalo chicken dip. Wow. That is perfectly spiced for me. Perfect. I just want it a little bit thicker. So I'm gonna wait just a few minutes before I start adding more cream cheese. And that's got a nice spice. Make sure that all of this cream cheese has really melted in and let it sit. Longer it sits, the thicker it gets, so keep that in mind. If you're gonna make it and then put it into your crock pot or turn this on slow cook, until you're ready to serve it, you may not want to thicken it at all until just before you serve it. You would thicken it again with either cream cheese or some shredded cheddar cheese. Now you might wonder why I don't pressure cook with the cream cheese, and the reason being is because it tends to split and it looks really gross when you open up the lid, when the cream cheese all kind of splits and curdles under that high heat. It does mix back in, so you technically can do that, but it really is unappealing when you open up the lid. So I usually just add it in afterwards. All right, so I let it sit for about 15 minutes. Now it's still a little bit on the runny side, but because my plan is to bake it in the oven with some cheddar cheese on top, I didn't want to thicken it up any more than that. So keep in mind, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again because it's important, because I don't want you to be disappointed in your results. The longer it sits, the thicker it gets. If you refrigerate it, it's going to get super thick. But then when you heat it back up, it will thin out some. You can serve it cold, you can serve it warm. The other day, I spread some on a piece of sourdough toast, popped it in the oven, and let it like melt and get toasty. And oh my gosh, it was the most delicious open-faced sandwich I've had. So this can be used in so many different ways. You can serve it with crackers. You can also serve it with vegetables. The other thing you can do is you can add in a little bit of blue cheese or a little bit of ranch dressing. You can mix that in with your dip. Some people do that. I tend to like to keep the buffalo chicken dip just with the bare necessity of ingredients, with the chicken and the hot sauce and the cream cheese, and then serve whether it's ranch or blue cheese or both on the side. This happens to be my homemade blue cheese vinaigrette, which goes perfectly with this. So the best bite of all is this one here. A little bit of the dip on a cracker. A little bit of blue cheese or ranch if you're a ranch fan. I prefer blue cheese. A little bit more. And then top it with a little bit of celery. And then pop it in your mouth. It's gonna be a big bite though. Amazing. Wow, the flavors in that are just so, so good. It's not overly cream cheesy. It's not overly spicy. It's got a nice texture with the chicken. The chicken is super tender, kind of melts in your mouth. This is absolutely delicious. Make it as thick or as thin as you want, because I was just thinking this would actually turn into a really good buffalo chicken cheese soup. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to work on that next.